Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World, the Tactical Review. The podcast does a deep dive into the weekend match of Celtic. We are looking at Kilmarnock 2, Celtic 3. Last gasp, last minute winners. It's becoming a habit. I did say last week, it's a roller coaster. We're on it. That hasn't changed midweek with a last minute winner against Livingston. The Ox getting on the score sheet, but it was a certain Julian Araujo who joined the Celtic fans in the crowd, celebrating a literal last minute winner. But before we get into that, apologies if I'm sounding a little bit husky. I do have a bit of a cold that's come on this afternoon. Bit of a gift from my wife from Manila. The only Valentine's Day present I got. Anyway. But other than that, what did I get up to in the weekend? I saw Dan Muggleton last night, comedian. Very good show. He's working on his show for the Comedy Festival coming up in May, but he's been at Fringe Festival in the past. So if you've seen him over in Edinburgh, shout out in the comments, or if you've seen him in Australia, because he is an Australian comedian, but he was quite good. Saw an Indian ballet dancer on Friday night. Was meant to see more Chibot on Saturday night, but we canned that because my wife wasn't feeling too well. But yeah, other than that, watched Scotland go relatively close to the cricket against England. And I believe you watched Scotland versus England in the rugby poll. So better result there. Take it away.
Yeah, no, well, obviously the highlight of the weekend was the late show from Rugby Park. But yeah, I started my Sunday at about 6 a.m. And got up early and watched the Calcutta Cup match on delay without knowing the result. Being honest, I wasn't hugely hopeful after the debacle in Rome last week. But as seems to be the case, we seem to have a number on the English. I think that was either the 6th out of 7 or the 7th out of 8 wins in the Calcutta Cup. Now, unfortunately, in other years, we haven't done a lot else in the championship other than beat the English. But they're actually in really good form. They'd won 12 on the spin. So yeah, came out of the blocks and fantastic performance and a great result. And yeah, sent them homeward to think again. So yeah, a cracking way to start Sunday. Spent some time with some friends down by the beach in Scarborough. Quite a difference to the Scarborough from the northeast of England, if anyone knows that. It was a very temperate sort of 25 degrees here yesterday, which is pretty cool for summer. And yes, I managed to take the dogs out in the middle of the day, which is usually impossible at this time of year. And yeah, caught up with some mates in the Arvo. And then just killing time till 10 p.m. local time to get kickoff. And by half time was pretty scunnered. If a third had gone in, I might not have made it to the end. But obviously, we are faithful through and through and all that nonsense. So we were sticking it out. And if ever the cliche a game of two halves was useful, then this particular match review is a place to use it. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Like just the kind of thing that, despite everything and all the negativity that we've seen this season, you just kind of can't help being romantic about this club of ours. Like we've all grown up on the sort of the romance of last minute winners and equalizers and pulling things out of the fire, and sometimes you just think, maybe this is going to be your year. And I'm pretty cynical and a realist, so I'm kind of trying to temper that feeling. But the more times we do this, the real negative cynics will say, oh, we're going to run out of luck at some point. We've got to. And they might be right. And sort of the rational part of your brain says that could well be the case. But that sort of magical, romantic part of your brain is just kind of tugging me a bit at the moment, going, Martin O'Neill back at 73, an absolute shambles of a season on and off the pitch. But when it flows, and a quick word, the fan base were amazing yesterday inside the ground. Even at 2-0, you couldn't hear the Killie fans, you could only hear the Celtic fans. And just an example again of when the fan base and the playing group are together, crazy things and amazing things will happen. So as a little plug for the board to hopefully make that, I believe there's meetings happening this week, potentially with both the collective and the Green Brigade, to try and get some progress. And I really hope that they were watching yesterday and saw the benefit of the unity between playing and fan group, because it just shouldn't have been possible yesterday with everything that went on. And a few people in the comments saying more like grey hairs. I've got more than enough, but at least they're hanging in there. But yeah, brilliant game, not a brilliant game. That's a brilliant second half and a fantastic result. And this point of the season, that's all that matters.
Bringing some comments. Hail, muchachos. Hail to you, sir. And we've got another one here. Ondale Amido is definitely a Mexican theme tonight. Our first goal for our right back. He even admitted afterwards he doesn't score many goals. He just wanted to hit it as absolutely hard as possible with his weaker left foot. And mission accomplished. Because the Kelly Roos had actually pulled some quite good saves. So it was a good finish to beat the keeper. And we say last kick of the game. It literally was the last kick of the game because there was literally less than 20 seconds after play restarted. I think, I'm going to take it. I'm going to do things in reverse here. McCann, I said last week, I don't like the guy. He's an absolute fud. He made a fun of himself after the match again. A couple of things. He's tearing strips off his players while Julian Araujo was getting the man of the match. Oh, sorry, Tonecti got the man of the match award, but Julian Araujo was doing the interview. So he was pulling a face going, what is that noise? And that was actually Neil McCann shouting at his players while Sky was trying to do media duties. So, the second bottom of the league, they were 2-0 up at halftime. Players off the park, let's be honest. Like, first half, they played really, really well. And, you have to say, a little bit unlucky with our centre forward going off with thigh strain with 20 minutes to go. Definitely in our favour, that one. But he's absolutely bollocking them. And then he comes out and goes, I don't know where the referees got 7 minutes from. So I just want to address this at the top of the show because there was 2 head injuries. There was multiple substitutions. Yes, Celtic did make a triple change at halftime, which was so badly needed it wasn't funny, and we'll get to that a bit later. But there was multiple substitutions that second half. There was 2 head injuries. You obviously had your man with a thigh strain, so he was down for a good 2-3 minutes with that. 7 minutes was like the bare minimum. And Chris Sutton said as much. And then you've got Monster Munch in the post-match echo in the comments to Neil McCann. It's like, there's no narrative here. We play to the whistle. And ultimately, Kelly had 7 minutes to score a winner as well. Did they not? Like, it's not 7 minutes for Celtic. It's 7 minutes for either team to get a winner. So this narrative can go and take a hike because I'm not having it. You play at the whistle. And it was 7 minutes, and we scored in the 96th minute. So there's even people like the Kilmarnock admin going, we scored in the 98th minute. It's like, no, we didn't. It's a complete lie. So this is what we're up against. And, obviously we've got disharmony between board and the fan base. Can't forget, the all the outside factors that can sort of permeate when there's such a tight title challenge on, pressure from the media on the referees. They did nothing wrong. It was, I feel usually we get shortchanged by the amount of actual added time because you've got teams wasting time. I just want to get that off my chest because I just thought that was a complete and utter furphy. Neil McCann could really have talked about the positives of his side and the things that he did really well, and he chose to go down that avenue, and that just says a lot about the man himself. So I just want to get that off my chest. Anyway, Paul, we'll bring up the team sheet for the start of the game. There was multiple changes, some big ones. I'll try and make this a bit bigger because this is a wee bit zoomed out. Excuse me. Again, I apologise for my huskiness, but it's one of these things. It's just come on this afternoon. That's probably as big as I can make it. So big changes were Junior Adamo starting up front. I think we had KT coming back in at left back. That was a change. Hatate coming back in for an injured Arnie Engels from the start. And was Yang the other change, Paul? I'm trying to remember those 4 changes.
Yeah,
that was the fourth from the Livingston game.
Yeah, he was.
So obviously, big thing here was obviously the preference to use Adamu rather than Javanshra. I'm ready to try and stick with that pronunciation tonight if I can manage it. Which I had my reservations about because I kind of thought a target man like Javanshra would have been the option for me at Rugby Park with the plastic pitch and the blustery conditions and whatnot. But that was one option that was opted for, and then utilising Daisen Maeda and Yang on the left and right wings. And then probably the most troubling aspect of this starting lineup, Paul, is the triumvirate in midfield of McGregor, Hatate and Negrin, which didn't work under Brendan Rodgers, didn't work under Wilfred Nancy. I don't think we saw it under Martin O'Neill 2.0. Well, the first time he was here for his first stint, as Engels kept his spot. But here we are, Engels is out injured, and this is kind of a little bit of a sliding doors moment, Paul, because this is what our midfield could look like if had we sold Engels in the transfer window.
Exactly. And if anyone still thinks we should have done that, they should be booking themselves off to the shrink any second, because that first half was a horror show. And that was a little glimpse, as you say, of what could have been the case if we'd sold Engels. He was badly missed in the first half. Look, there's been a lot of rhetoric and a lot of discussion, a lot of slating of the manager, actually, in terms of the selection. I'm not going to join that in, because it's, there's too many football manager players, as far as I'm concerned, in every sport. Yeah, you can't just play the same 11 players for 90 minutes, week in, week out, every 3 days. It's just impossible. We've got a ridiculous run coming up, and this was on paper the easiest fixture of the next 5 or 6. So he absolutely saw that he should rotate the squad, and that's what he tried to do. So I've got no issues with what he tried to do. It's up to those players that aren't necessarily a current first pick to step up and perform. And too many of them didn't. And too many of them that are a first 11 pick were way off it as well, first half. But yeah, that midfield 3 doesn't work. We know that. As far out of the picture as he is, I'd have played Bernardo all day long. He's had his best games in Europe, and I think you probably need him on Thursday against Stuttgart. So getting some minutes in his legs yesterday would have seemed to be a wise move. And then Hatate starts on the bench. I just think too many managers, and O'Neill's probably sucked into this as well, is they look at Hatate and go, well, he is a potential game changer. The problem is that potential hasn't been realised at any real level
season. I think Sean said next on the Aberdeen game where he scored that really good goal. I think that was probably the one bit of class brilliance we've seen this season from him.
It's a bit of brilliance. He had some. He had some flashes in O'Neill's first spell. Like he got a little run, and he played some decent bits of games. He didn't put probably a whole game together. And look, if he could in any way get back to his peak form, or even halfway close to his peak form, he would still be an asset to this team. But he's a mile off it. Adamu, we didn't see him get much service, but he was pretty poor. He looks like a player who hasn't played much football, and just hasn't got a lot of confidence. And Maeda was, he started quite brightly, put a few nice balls into the area, as he did the other week. I think he did that the other night as well, but nobody gambling on the end of it. And I think he was a bit lucky not to get dragged at halftime. I feel a bit sorry for Yang, because I think the only reason Yang got dragged was to accommodate Maeda staying on. Because he had to get to Nekti on, and so rather than hook Maeda on the left as a straight swap, he hooked Yang and moved Maeda over there. And Maeda's useless on the right as well, and he pretty much proved that, and eventually swapped him out for Forrest. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Yang's the answer by any stretch of the imagination, but he had an okay first half. He got down the right a few times. He got balls in the area. He nearly scored at the back post. He cut one back for Negrin, and he kind of fluffed it. So of the front three, he was actually the most productive.
You definitely could have tossed a coin between Maeda and Yang for who came off at halftime. I mean, that was the one that I didn't necessarily pick. I thought Adamu, he's got to come out, and Hatate, it was so blatantly obvious. And if it wasn't obvious to you when he lost the ball, was it about the 30-minute mark? He was in the defensive midfield position, and he basically got his pocket pinched right in front of 20, 25 yards out from goal. I was like, I'd have dragged them then and there. I was like, but I was texting my dad. I was obviously in a couple of group chats, and we're all of the belief that Hatate just wasn't on it, and to not have the awareness that you've got somebody up your arse and you lose the ball in such a dangerous position, it's just unacceptable. He gave away the penalty against Livingston again from this lack of awareness. And for me, that is an absolute non-negotiable in football. If you're a centre midfielder or a central defender or really anywhere in the park, if you do not have enough spatial awareness to know who's around you, opposition and friendly players, then I'm sorry, but your head's not in the game. And if your head's not in the game, you're not good to the team. You're not good to us. He should be a third choice. You've got Nygren, and you've got, I think, Oxlade-Chamberlain playing for that number 10 role. And if both of them are spent force, then all right, bring Hatate off the bench. Obviously, Oxlade-Chamberlain can't play in Europe, so all right, option maybe to bring him off the bench there if Nygren's done. But he just does not have the work rate or the work ethic, and it's just putting too much pressure on Cal McGregor. And I know a lot of people are saying, Cal McGregor had a poor game. Yeah, I thought he did have a poor game, but I also think he was trying to play three central midfielders as one. And what did Kilmarnock set up with? They set up with a midfield diamond. So there was basically four in that midfield just running him ragged. And we all know captain plays too many games. He's wrong side of 30, all the rest of it. He needs help. And the only player I think in our squad who can help him at the moment is fit. It's Paulo Bernardo. I think Luke McCowan, you can make an argument for that, and you could definitely make a case for it. And I think in Scotland against some of the weaker teams, absolutely. But if you want a higher ceiling, you want somebody who is at least ready to get stuck in. For me, it's Bernardo. But like I said, we'll see on Thursday night, because he really doesn't have. He can't play Hatate again after that. He just can't. And if he does, well, hell mind him. But I just think that it's probably the first time tactically this season where Martin O'Neill's got it wrong. But the caveat to that is, at halftime, he made the necessary changes to get us back into the game. And he recognised that he stuffed up, or him and Sean made the wrong choices. And there's a really good point here from John CL, which I actually do like. Do you put all your best players on at the start and then leave nothing to come on? Because, Tenecti is making this impact off the bench, and I think they are trying to use him as a bit of an impact sub, but are you kind of depriving yourself in that first half where you could be 2 or 3 goals up and then out of sight, and then the second half's a non-entity because you're ahead in the game? I mean, let's face it, against Livingston, that first 15 minutes, there should have been 2 or 3 goals there, Paul. Didn't come. And then obviously came back to bite us, nearly came back to bite us ultimately, but it was probably a much harder game than it probably needed to be. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it best team from the absolute start, or should we sort of be keeping a wee bit in reserve in case things aren't going right? I think we made the comment today that there's probably only 12 or 13 players that Martin O'Neill can really rely on at the moment. We brought a whole load of players in, but are they actually any good?
Well, that's the problem, right? We were sort of trying to remain optimistic because at least we had bodies in the door. But the bodies, Gadamo had a great goal the other week to drag us into extra time. And he hasn't played much football, so you can't judge him too much. But, it doesn't look like you're going to get a ton out of him, which makes Chvanchara absolutely your first pick. If you're not rotating, which is obviously what happened yesterday. Iheanacho has disappeared from the squad again, so I don't know if he's got another niggle or he's just been bumped for Adamu as he's come in, and that's, he wants to give him a run of games. Because ironically enough, when fit, which hasn't been often enough, Iheanacho's always looked a threat. Like, the problem is we can't keep him on the pitch fit enough for long. And the biggest issue for him was lack of service. But you've actually now got, in guys like Sriracha and Tierney, you've got some decent Tinecti, you've got some decent service starting to come in, and Araujo as well. He can produce service, as we've seen. So it is I think it's horses for courses, like any of these things. I think we've probably got to play the best team. In certain matches, you've got to play the best team from the start. Like Stuttgart, for example, we'll have to play the best team we think is suitable for that game. Now, that might see somebody like Bernardo start in a deeper line role closer to McGregor, because we're going to be defending more. But if that's what we think is the best, team for that game, then the arguments. I think the problem we've got is the left side's now quite loaded, and the right side's still a bit hit and miss. So, you've signed Muveka, thankfully only on loan, and he can't get in the squad for the last 2 games based on 45 minutes of a performance and whatever he's been doing in training. So you're still reliant on, and this is absolutely ludicrous, and it's no slight on Jamesy because he produced again, but James Forrest been asked to produce 35, 40 minutes to dig us out a hole. It's just madness. And again, that sort of happened because he accommodated Maeda for too long and took Yang off when he could have gone a bit deeper. It's just so you've got a sort of odd situation where Tinecti and Maeda that's certainly left-sided. That's where they should be, and Sriracha and KT, I would argue, are almost interchangeable. With they're both fit, they've both got good product. But on the right, you've got Araujo's kind of got to play every game. And don't get me wrong, Kobe Donovan's had a great breakout season, but he's nowhere near the same level as Araujo. And then you toss a coin for what you do in the right wing currently, because we've got Maveka, who's not getting in the squad. Yang is probably still your best right winger, which, he was nearly out the door in January and nearly out the door in the summer. So that's kind of mad. And then Jamesy Forrest is still backing up as well. So it just proves again the recruitment over both windows has been pitiful. We've got some in, but we're still nowhere near it. The Ox has been asked to play a full 52 minutes because in his second appearance, when he's not played a competitive game prior to the last week since May. It's just,
I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be putting him on the plastic park either if we could help it.
No, absolutely. But that again, because of Engels' injury and the lack of other recruitment, he's in between him and Ian Atcher, that's 2 guys that were completely out of contract that have been key players for key parts of the season. And look, if Oxlade-Chamberlain can get fully match fit, he looked rusty again when he came on. He was, he got done over a couple of times. He wasn't up to the pace of the game, but he got himself up to the speed pretty good, or pretty quickly rather. And then you can see his class, right? That doesn't go. His touch, his ability to get his head up and pass and find little pockets of space, it was excellent. And for us with him, the danger is now with Engels' injury is, does he get overplayed? Does
the temptation will be to start too soon? Yeah,
of course.
Right. But you've got to be looking at Bernardo and McCarron. They're the 2 that have got to come in for on Thursday night. Like Tati cannot be in that starting lineup. I'm sorry. No. I know he's just not warranted. It's obviously here blame the board. Absolutely. I mean, ultimately recruitment falls back to a lack of structure and a lack of investment, and then end up getting cheaper options in, because one of those 2 laddies who we were looking at right wing, the 2 good players. All right, one of them didn't want to come to Scotland. Fair enough. But the other one had we pushed the boat out. The one that ended up going to, was it Ferencváros in the end? There was another one who was like quality. We could have pushed the boat out and got him. So, I just think that was probably the one criminal thing we didn't do in that window, was sign a proper right winger to replace your man Kuhn, who we haven't replaced yet. Anyway, but I don't want to go on that broken record. But let's talk about some conceded goals in the first half, Paul, because one thing we haven't actually touched on yet is how poor our defenders were, our central defenders were. Austin Trusty had an absolute, my brother called him Bambi on ice this morning. And it probably wasn't far from the truth, because him and Liam Stales, honest to God, they were like on their tiptoes trying not to, I don't know, they were worried they would give away a penalty, what it was, but they were just all over the place, weren't winning their headers, wrong side of out of position constantly. Just every time Kilmarnock went up front, you just thought, Christ, it was like they were going to score a goal or at least create a chance. They're like that boy Curtis on loan from Rangers, like he's not even that much cop, but it's just, he was getting space, and a couple of shots went straight down the throat of Casper Schmeichel, thankfully, but this is the first goal. I'll just run through the couple of stills that we've got, and then you can talk about it, Paul. But Austin Trusty, I mean, far out. I don't know what his game was here. So caught the wrong side of the ball. This is him. I'm pretty sure this is him in the yellow boots. Caught the wrong side, and then he manages to track back. So he actually does the hard yards. He manages to square him up, and then what does he do? He gets taken on. Rather than showing him the line, just taking on the inside, and he managed to pull away a great shot here. And John Jeans, I mean, this is actually, it is a wonderful finish. He curls it around. Schmeichel's at no chance. It's a good finish, don't get me wrong, but the defending here is absolutely piss poor. And that's 1-0. And you felt like it was coming because, like I said, every time they seem to pick up the ball, they were winning second balls in midfield. And this comes back to the lack of pressure from Hatate and Negron. And they were just be able to just exert pressure on us up front. And this was coming, and 1-0.
Yeah, well, if you take it back to the first still of this goal, Trusty, it's past this point, Trusty gets beaten or misjudges the header on the touchline. So he goes up to try and make a header and misses it. And it wasn't an isolated incident. He didn't judge the flight of the ball or the bounce of the ball on the pitch well at all. There
was one in the second half.
Yeah, he tried to head it and it bounced clean over his head and they were away. Just shocking. So I saw somebody joke today that when we play Hibs on the weekend, somebody should tell him that we're playing Hibernio. Because when he plays the Italians, he seems to play absolutely brilliant when he's playing against great Italian teams and defends like a proper defender. And then this stuff, it was just comedy stuff. So he misses the header here. And then, and then Scales gets done a bit too easily, right? He's too square here and he just allows a simple, square pass inside. And your man running between McGregor and Trusty gets onto it. And he's away. And then if you bring it forward, so Trusty does the hard work and he makes all that space up. And he's at this point, he just needs to show John Jules down the line, squeeze him out. Worst that's going to happen is he's probably going to give away a corner, and that's that. But to get then squared up and turned, it's just really, really poor. And then having been turned, he doesn't put enough pressure on the ball, which he's guilty of on the second goal as well. And to be fair to Tyrese John Jules, it's an absolutely brilliant finish. Fun fact for you, Tyrese John Jules is the nephew of Danny John Jules, Cat from Red Dwarf. So I thought that was a pretty cool little fact. And he's made these defenders look like absolute smegheads. So if you're a fan of Red Dwarf, hopefully you appreciate that stuff. But yeah, cracking finish, but absolutely piss poor defending. And it was compounded and matters got worse on the second goal, which was arguably, it's a much worse goal to lose. It is. And in this one, Trusty can take pretty much all the blame on the first one with a little help from Scales. I think there's plenty, as we often say on this show, there's plenty of blame to go around when you lose a bad goal. And this second goal is, I've heard people blame Schmeichel for the majority of it. And don't get me wrong, he's absolutely got blame to take, but it goes round. And I'm happy to share it out in a second.
All right, just hold your fire just for 2 seconds, Paul. I'm going to bring in some comments and then we can jump on that second goal. So, in light of obviously our defensive frailties last night, John CL saying, "Sorry, the biggest crime of this window was not getting a solid right-sided centre half." And take your point. We obviously have Carter Vickers who's still out injured and hopefully will make a recovery for next season. I definitely met somebody on loan who was pushing for a World Cup berth, I believe, is what we were hoping for, Paul, but that didn't quite happen. But I think, not actually replacing players who've left the building, for me, right winger, that's my personal opinion anyway. Franny saying centre halves for a week, it was worrying. Peggy Peg Leg Loner in here saying really missed Engel's work rate and energy now. Yep, no, we were saying that before. If you just joined the show, he's also asking us in an actual fit. I wish we knew. It's not being talked about, so who actually really knows? And then Mesh is saying that Trusty's not been the same since he's had a foot injury in August, lost some speed and agility. Yeah, I just think he struggles when
he was great against Bologna. He was absolutely great against Bologna. So
we've seen this with Trusty though, when players back into him and really get his groove, it's not his best. You never really see his best efforts. I think in Europe there's a little bit of professional courtesy, as it were. I just feel that like it's just a slightly different game. Whereas in Scotland, sometimes it can just be really in your face, and I just don't think that's necessarily his. And usually that's where Stales kind of offsets it a bit, but he was a bit sort of hit and miss as well. It wasn't exactly his best thing. And Doodie's saying here, they need a break, but that's not an option. They're just going to have to play literally every week. Henrik Larsson sort of obviously preempting the second goal, which I may as well bring it up now. So, bear with me a second.
Yeah, Trusty's like one of these defenders who he doesn't like it up him, right? He's a bit like Chris Julian. He doesn't like it up him, and those big strong strikers are sort of aware of that. And for a bloke who must be 6'5", 6'6", he's far too easily roughed up, right? And he needs to sort of stand up to these players. If this is the first shot,
still, yeah.
So we badly miss here. So Araujo gets done here. Araujo gets done on the outside.
Isn't there also an issue where Yang passes the man over and doesn't track back?
I think there's a bit of that, but Araujo's got ball watching as far as I'm concerned. The ball's tucked in behind him. I think also is Scales not out there at one point, out of position, and then he struggled to get back in. Anyway.
Well, you can't see him in that image. He's not there. That's Negrin. That's McGregor. That's Maeda. So I think this is the second phase, right? So I think this is the point right before he delivers it in. So the first phase of this is, I think Scales is out wide on the right. I don't know what he's doing over there, but he is. And then the ball gets lost, and then tucked in behind Araujo, who's ball watching. They get in behind. Scales gets back into position in the middle of the goal, and a ball comes in, and he sclaffs it clear to the edge of the box. So that's your first Araujo is sleeping, and then Scales with a dreadful clearance keeps the pressure on us. The ball's shifted back over. Is this John Jules again? I think it is. Yeah, it is. And he sits up.
And Trusty again. At least he's now offering him the outside. But he's given no pressure on the ball, which we've been guilty of quite a lot this season. Is players backing off or not pressing the ball or not going to the man where the danger is. He's far too lax here. Ball comes in, and then the striker runs off Scales. There's no way Scales should get beaten in the air there at the front post. That's just super poor. He does, and then Schmeichel is just. He's caught absolutely flat-footed, and it seems like he waits for an age. Like he stood flat-footed and he's looking up at it, and then he's going, "Oh, I probably need to move my feet here," and he just can't. He can't move his feet quick enough, and then he can't get his big frame off the ground, and it's almost in slow motion. He's going with his wrong hand again because he's worried about that shoulder. It's just an absolute shambolic goal. Both centre-backs, right back to some degree, and the keeper have had an absolute mare here. And at this point, we are staring down a pretty, I would say, a league season ending defeat if we lose the game from here. Thankfully, and I don't know if we've got any more footage, but thankfully, whilst we didn't manage to convert at the other end, there was another chance that we managed to stop it, because it could have been worse. It could have been 3-0 at halftime. But yeah, this is one of as bad a goal to lose as you can pretty much imagine.
I'd have to say, white man can't jump. That was I'm pretty sure Acker got off the ground better than Kasper Schmeichel with that one. He was like moving in installments. And like you say, Paul, the real major concern there, and it's now been talked about, and Michael Stewart mentioned it, is the fact that he's going with his right arm in that situation. It's like if he extends his left arm fully, you're adding an extra foot, if not more, to like what you could get to maybe touch the ball. But like you say, he's obviously very, very tentative landing on that left shoulder, especially if it's fully extended. And you just know that he's watching himself for the playoffs with Denmark in March, in a month's time. And interestingly enough, that's roughly where we think Arne Engels might come back into the squad after those games. So we've got a month to navigate without him, and that's best case scenario. That's best case scenario. Like, that's if he gets everything all goes according to plan. And let's face it, this season, Celtic with injuries, nothing's really gone according to plan. Franny's saying here as well that Casper went to the front post. I actually think he covered his front post too much. He was, yes, you cover your front post in that situation, but he was that far forward that he was never really getting back either. I just think positionally he got it wrong. It was, as you say, Paul, there's plenty of blame to go around. I still think Trusty was poor, not getting closer.
Yeah. He's the main culprit.
Steels puts that rose ed or actually does a proper clearance rather than half.
Danger's gone. The danger's gone. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, you take a pick. Take a pick.
Yeah. Well, all three of them are massively culpable. I just want to make a quick comment here about the goalkeeping position, because obviously the first thing that people are knee-jerk going is that we've got to replace Schmeichel. Unfortunately, we aren't going to replace Schmeichel, and I don't think we can, because there's nothing better. That's the concern. Again, another position which we have not strengthened well enough. Sinisalo is this classic example of a player who gets better the less he plays, because he just isn't the alternative. Sinisalo looks dodgy with his feet. He looks uncomfortable with the ball at his feet, and he comes flapping for crosses. And I don't think he's as good a shot stopper. Well, I'm comfortably happy to say he's not as good a shot stopper as Kasper Schmeichel. So when you add up all of those things, you can't drop Schmeichel. You just can't. And Ross Doohan's third choice behind Sinisalo. So if anything, I'd be thinking of promoting Ross Doohan to second choice and then potentially seeing what happens. That's where we're at with the goalkeeping situation. So yeah, I think unfortunately you're stuck with Michael. And to be honest, he's dug us out of a hole a few times in the last few weeks. His form's definitely upticked since Martin O'Neill's come back into the building, and we've just got to hope that we can get some sort of strength back into that area, because there isn't anyone really left to come in. You'd be asking Ben Arthur to come in to fill in and then go into some sort of worldy form and sort of make himself challenge for a place on rotation. Just don't really think that's going to happen. Dane Murray's not going to put pressure on anyone. There's no one's coming to save us. Like we're stuck with what we've got. And as you indicated, and as you indicated a little while ago, there is only about 11 or 12 players that the manager can absolutely rely on. But we can't just rely on those 12 or 13 players, 11, 12, 13 players. So we're going to have to supplement games and a lot of games, a lot of pieces of games with players we don't really trust or we know aren't really up to it, which is kind of what we've been doing all season. So O'Neill will have to continue to wave his magic wand, and we'll have to hope that the crowd can suck balls into the net later on, because this is where we're at.
All right, I'm mindful of time, so I'm just going to race through some of these. These were some of the chances that we had just before halftime to try and get back into the game. Kelly Roos pulls a couple just says here, Yang's unlucky with this one. Maeda should do a lot better with this one. He has more than enough time to pick a spot and manages to pick out the defender instead. That was probably the best chance Celtic had in the first half, I think. Mm-hmm. And then Tinekti is this the goal?
That's the goal, but there's a sighter before that.
There's a sighter before that. So I should say at halftime, before we get into this, we'll quickly just touch on the substitutes at halftime, because something had to change at halftime because it just wasn't good enough. So triple change. Chavanchara coming on. Chavanchara. So yeah, again, Javanshire came on at centre forward. We had Tanekti coming on for Yang, and then swapping Maeda out to the right, and Tanekti coming on to the left. And then we also
Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Oxlade-Chamberlain came on. Sorry, yes, that's right, the Ox. So I was calling for Bernardo, and then realised that Bernardo wasn't even on the bench. Anyway, but the what's the word? The not the feeling, but the I knew what had to happen. It was just it was the personnel that we had available. Anyway, so we had the Ox playing 45 minutes, and immediately you'd have to say second half, Paul. It made a big difference. Early doors, like we actually felt like we're back in the game, creating some chances. As you say, Tanekti had that sighter. There's a few other, just the build up, just putting Kilmarnock on the back foot.
Even the intensity was up. Everyone looked like they wanted the ball. They were on the front foot. They were immediately sitting higher up the pitch and putting pressure on Kelly's backline. And as is kind of becomes the case, is even if you don't mean to backtrack, you got a 2-0 lead. Pressure comes on, you do sit a bit deeper, and the pressure had been building. Although I think they had a one breakaway prior to Tanekti's goal where.
Schmeichel did make one spread save early in the second half. I think it was Greg Kilty. I think he broke through. Actually, that wasn't a good save because he did his usual, made himself big and managed to sort of clear his lines with that one. So credit where it's due. But this was the goal that got us back into it. And I said to my old man at halftime, I said, one goal, and we're back in this because Kilmarnock are second bottom. They'll have scar tissue for the amount of times that they've been gubbed this season. All right, they've got a new manager. He's fired them up. They're playing well. But when you are second bottom of the league and you concede a goal against the champions, reigning champions, they're going to panic. They're going to start making mistakes. They're going to fall out of the rhythms that they've been playing up until now, which has got them to the point where they're 2-0 up. And it helps that this is an absolute thunder bastard of a goal because this is like, he's done this a couple of times. Did it against Ochilek Talbot a few weeks ago. And you obviously can see that he's one of the ones that's really responding to the training. But this cut inside, as you say, say it before, but this one, given a bit of space, enough space to get the shot away. And it's keeper's absolutely no chance. Look at that. I mean, keeper's full stretch. It sails into the back of the net. And I've just stepped ahead there, and that's 1-2-1. And you have to say it was game on because you just felt the momentum shift. The support was behind the team at 2-0, but it just lifted another gear or two after that. You can't underestimate it. It was so big, and such a big goal, a big moment, and with enough time to still do something about it as well. It didn't come too late. It came at the right time. Paul, is there any other superlatives you want to add?
Just an absolutely class finish. Now, Tanekti has sort of flattered to deceive for chunks of this season, but I think Maloney must have been working with him, and probably O'Neill was a winger in his day, probably giving him, the two of them probably boost his confidence and giving him some tips. This is what this is what a right-footed left-sided winger is supposed to do. They're supposed to cut in and every so often, put one right in the rigging. It's an absolutely brilliant finish. Again, if we're looking at it from the Killy side, there's no pressure on the ball. He stepped inside the guy next to him, and the nearest press is 5, 7, 8 yards away. But it's a brilliant finish. You're not going to save that. 56 minutes. So yeah, you're right. Tons of time left in the game to go at it. And this is and we got the second pretty early too. And you thought, well, there's only one outcome from here, and it wasn't quite as straightforward as we would have liked.
Well, this was us scored from a throw-in, which I can't remember that any time we ever scored from a throw-in, but this was a long ball over the top. Chavanshire does well, and Nygren does what Nygren does. He just pops up in the right position. Toe pokes at home, or two each. McCann's run absolutely ballistic on the touchline, and we're back in this game. And it's just, it's poor defending from Kilmarnock. Let's call a spade. But, if we were due a wee bit of luck or, a wee bit of, tit for tat, it definitely wasn't a defensive masterclass from either team, really. Last night, it was more the attacking play in the end. It was probably the better bits to watch. But like I said, Tinecti, he's a luxury. I say it every week. Doesn't have the work rate. He's not athletic. I even thought his link-up passing yesterday was crap. Like, there's a number of times where he gave the ball away. Niedren, sorry. Apologies, thank you for correcting me. Niedren, a number of times he gave the ball away in bad positions. But this is why he's in the team. This is why he's our top goal scorer of 16 goals now, I think. Top of the league. You need them. We need them.
Yeah, and this is why Hatate can't play, because you can't play both of them, and you just can't leave Niedren out. He's 16 goals and 8 assists or something daft like that. And he's just got an awareness and a sense of where he should be. Araujo throws a good long throw. We never. That's a good point. We'll get to that in a second. Araujo throws a really good long throw. Obviously, a good weapon to be able to utilize, and there's no way Killy will have been preparing for us doing long throws. We would never do that normally. And Sivan Chara's obviously a good target, and him just being in there with 3 or 4 Killy players around him, he's just awkward, and they don't deal with it at all. The ball sort of ricochets. I think one Killy player bumps it off another, and it just drops to Niedren. And as he's been a lot of times this season, he's Johnny on the spot, and he just gets his feet sorted out, and it's in the back of the net. And at that point, it's 60 odd minutes gone, and we're absolutely game on, tails up, confidence up. We probably should have got the job done a lot more straightforwardly. But I think that comment you popped up from Henrik Larsson, I think is spot on. And I think I said this earlier in the season, is, not in how he plays. He's not got the same sort of speed and movement that Abada's got. But yeah, Abada got slated regularly for just looking like he was barely disappearing, barely in the game, losing balls, poor. But then he'd appear at the back post or drift off his marker at the penalty spot, and he'd be there to smash one in. And he scored a ton of goals because he just had this knack of knowing where to be at the right time. And Niedren has absolutely got it. So yeah, if we had spent 20, 30, 40 million in the summer like we should have done, would he be in the first team? Probably not. He would be a fringe player, and there'd be a job for him doing that. But I definitely think he's the kind of player you could bring off the bench with 20 minutes to go and get you another 1 or 2 goals while a team's tiring.
He should be your David Turnbull. He should be that guy that comes on with 20 minutes and picks up his goal, his assist. His numbers look great for the number of minutes that he gets, and that would make sense. And given his engine and his lack of ability to get around the park, that would make perfect sense. But in this season,
he's borderline our star player. But yeah, no, great that he was there again. Another goal to add to the total, and at 2-2, yeah, like I said, do you think it's game on? But then
Paul, this moment happens, and I mean, it's a very generous setback of the wall, I feel. But anyway, and I'm not sure what the wall's covering, because it given the setup of who's hitting it, I kind of feel like we're a wee bit too far over this way. I kind of feel like we probably should be a bit more in the middle. But anyway, so the wall setup's not great, and obviously he smashes it off the crossbar. Casper Speckle's insisting that he's got that covered, but I'm not so sure on that one. But yeah, wonderful strike. But thankfully, I suppose that's a wee bit of luck there.
It was, but the Schmeichel thinking this is gone is a real worry, because. And it did come down a fair bit, but yeah, that's a kind of misread. The only other point I note on this free kick is it absolutely wasn't a free kick, and Kilmarnock got bugged for it as well.
Yes.
Like, he gets back well, he snips his foot round the side, he pokes the ball away, and then the player's momentum takes him in to Cal. It's absolutely not a free kick, and it's certainly not a booking. But the refereeing, again, we can talk about this very briefly because we haven't got time and we've got the right result. But another shocking day of officiating, just hopeless. Yeah,
I mean, if your hand's up there, why is your hand up there? Your hand's only up there to try and hit the ball away. I mean, I know Chris Sutton said on commentary that he headed it away, but I've seen I mean, the problem is there's no conclusive images because they didn't bother to give a replay or show it from any other angle. They only showed it once and went, "Oh, that was it," and VAR did the usual 5-second review and went, "Oh, it's not a penalty." I mean, you know, to me, it looks like it comes off his hand, and his hand's in an unnatural position. So, I mean, that is that
Well,
not a penalty? I mean, who can say in 2026 whether that is a penalty?
I also think the one where was it Lyons was down on the ground for a while, like claiming a head knock. I'm pretty sure that come off the back of his elbow, and maybe then hit his hand, or he's faking the head injury because he turns sort of like that, and then I think it hits the elbow again. We don't get a clear. We only see one image of that, and there's players obscuring it. We don't see anything from the side. So there's those two. Butcher that again. Chavanchara was getting wrestled and tugged at every opportunity, including one in the box. There's a couple outside the box. He's absolutely getting grappled. It's a foul all day long, waved away. Barely a Killie player gets touched in a similar way, but much less so. And it's a free kick and a book. Like, just consistency was piss poor again. I don't want to say
Chavanchara got booked for protesting the fact that he was getting absolutely manhandled with no free kicks. And there's one that was like, he was absolutely 100% spot on. It should have been a free kick. It wasn't given, and he's lost his rag. And it's like, I can totally see where he's coming from. It's just, it's one set of rules for Celtic. There's another set of rules for the opposition. But we'll part that one there, Paul, because we're a bigger fish to fry. This was the big man himself. This was a throw-in. He does ever so well here. This is what you want your big centre forward doing, being an absolute nuisance in the box. Manages to pull it down, creates a yard of space for himself. James Forrest manages to get the cut back across, and one of the Killie defenders gets a toe on it, but isn't able to clear it. And the rest is, as they say, is history. But somebody said in the comments, I'm still buzzing. I've got a cold, but yes, I'm still buzzing as well, because this is
epic.
This is up there. This is like epic moments. Like you just had I almost had a sense of inevitability about it, but I just kind of felt like we're still in this. And even when James Forrest broke down like 2 minutes before this, and it petered out, and I went, I just feel like we've got one more chance at this. We'll have one more go. And again, it came from a throw-in. Crazy.
And interestingly, I don't know, you probably watch it on Sky. I was watching it on Celtic TV, and Cuddy, I think it was, went, "Oh, we should have got he actually said we should have got Araujo over the other side to take the throw after how good the throw was for the second goal. And if he was, then he's not there to come in from the right back position. And it's a great finish. It's an absolutely great finish on his weaker foot. It'd be really easy to smash that high over the bar or pull it wide. I just went, Chavanchara was absolutely brilliant. The drop of the shoulder, for a big guy, drop the shoulder, spin his man, get to the byline, and then have the presence of mind to just slip it back. You're right, there was a slight toe, but it wasn't enough. And yeah, if you're Killie pod and you're analysing, you go, it's a terrible goal to lose late on. But yeah, it's just a special goal from a player who, as somebody said in the comments, his attitude is first class. He never stops working. And he clearly enjoyed it, as we all did. Up in the crowd, doing a little salsa dance in there with the crowd, taking, joining in selfies. He was absolutely delighted, and he deserves to be. That's what Celtic's all about. It's those last minute goals that it really reminded me of Anthony Ralston up at Dingwall a few years ago. We've
done it at Rugby Park a few times, though. You go back as far as Nakamura scoring the free kick.
Nakamura, Tom Rogic, Scott
Brown. He
twice, I think.
The crowd. Yeah. But I mean, it's just.
But yeah, it's just a special goal, and then obviously the ref was killjoy, waiting for him to get out of the crowd to produce his yellow card, and then he just laughed in his face, which was just brilliant. Like he did obviously couldn't care less about a yellow card, although he has picked up a few. So I think that there might be an issue with 5 yellows. He might get suspended for a key game. So hopefully that isn't the case. But I think we'd all happily let him have that yellow. It was a brilliant moment, and absolutely seasons alive again, and obviously we don't want to focus on the other two, but I think a result was probably favourable to us at Ibrox, meaning that Hearts are within shooting distance, our game in hand. our game in hand would take us all square with them and would put us 1 point ahead of Rangers, assuming results continue to go as they are. So, yeah, we're well in the mix. I think part of me thinks we're third favourite because of how weak the squad is and how thin we are, and part of me thinks we're probably favourites because we've done it before, and the resilience in the squad and the manager at the helm is second to none when it comes to this stuff. So, yeah, we're right in the mix, absolutely right in the mix, and I think it would take somebody brave to bet against us at this point.
I'll just take a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back with our man of the match.
Every life is full of stories, and we all know someone whose story should be preserved. That's what an audio memoir is, a record of you or your loved one's life stories, family anecdotes, and poignant memories. We will talk online and then edit the recordings into episodes, accompanied by family photos and contemporaneous images of the past, creating an enduring audio-visual experience. We all know someone who deserves an audio memoir.
Okay, Paul. So, honourable mention for my man of the match was Kieran Tierney. I thought he was absolutely, he was busting the hump. He was one of the only players in the first half to put his hand up and say, put a shift in. He was trying to make something happen every time he got on the ball, ran past Maeda, was whipping in dangerous crosses, really doing absolutely everything he could to try and spur the team on. So he was replaced with Sirachi sort of later in the second half. Obviously, the sponsors man of the match was Sebastian Tinekti for his wonderful goal, and obviously injected that quality on the left-hand side. But for me, I'm going to go with Julian Araujo. The winner, the celebration. I actually think first half he didn't have a bad game. I know Martin O'Neill came on and sort of said, asked him about his first half, like implying that it wasn't very good. But yeah, you're right. He probably got caught sleeping for one of the goals, but I still think he just adds a bit of quality on that right back position, and just hard to get past when he actually is defending. Like he has a really good knack of pinching the ball and coming away with it. A lot of defenders win a tackle and it goes out for a throw in, or they just kick it up the park, but he wins it and then turns it into an attack for us as well, which that's a unique skill. There's not a lot of players that in our history or recent history that can do that. So for me, I'm right. It's his first goal for Celtic as well. So I'm going to give it to Julian Araujo.
Seconded. Yeah. Tinekti got us going, and he was a bit of a menace, and he certainly gave us that spark. You're right, KT. Of the other starters, he was probably the standout other than Julian Araujo. So yeah, I agree with you. Araujo.
I don't know if he's got a song yet.
His throw in as well. It was his throw in caused the mayhem for the second, so he's borderline got an assist there. So yeah, I think absolutely fair that he takes the man of the match from us.
Fantastic. We're doing well. We're just under an hour, so we might as well flick over to our recommendations, and then we'll call it night so I can go to my bed.
Indeed. So music recommendation for the week. I was chatting to my wife about the band Cold War Kids yesterday. One of the random songs came on in the car, and I was like, did we go see that band years ago? And she was like, yep, it wasn't that long ago. So I looked it up. It was long ago. It was nearly a decade ago. But yeah, we saw them in Fremantle 10 years ago. So I wonder what they've been up to. So they've got a EP out with 5 new tracks called, it's like basically they're calling it, using it as a double A sides, but it's 5 tracks, and it's Push My Luck and All I Ever Need, EP by Cold War Kids. If you were, Hang Me Out to Dry, all of that stuff. If you were into Cold War Kids in the mid to late 2010s, then give them a look. My album/EP recommendation of the week.
Thank you very much, Paul. Russ, something slightly different this week. So I'll have a feel-good story. So Panchu-kun is a young Japanese Macau monkey at the Ichikawa City Zoo, and he was abandoned by his mother. So he's been raised by the keepers there, and he's actually bonded with a soft toy orangutan. So if you jump onto Twitter, it's all across Twitter at the moment. Have a look at that. It's just like he's just takes this little toy everywhere, and it's just warms your heart. And with so much absolute rubbish and toxicity online these days, sometimes it's nice just to see a wee story for something a wee bit positive. So that's me for this week. Try to be a little optimistic. Henrik Malassen saying, let's not downplay the role of the fans. Yep, I think we covered that at the top of the show. But they were absolutely fantastic for the full 97 minutes. I actually feel Sky Sports actually dulled some of the chanting at some points in the match, which I was a bit annoyed about because sometimes you'd hear them a lot louder than others, but not sure about that. But anyway, and I think, Franny's just saying here, let's just hope that we all start singing from the same hymn sheet soon. That would be nice, but time will tell. It's in the Celtic boards, balls in their court, as it were. Paul, we've got Stuttgart on Thursday night, and then we have got on the weekends. I've totally
Hibs on Sunday at home.
I Hibs this. I Hibsed it.
We did
Hibs on Sunday. It's an 11 o'clock kickoff in our part of the world, so we'll be up until the early hours of Monday morning. I really love that before we go to work, but would we be anywhere else?
Well, I'll be in Sydney on Sunday night, so it's even later. So I've no idea. And I've got a bit of a day session. I'm going for that to see one of my best mates. So I've had a few weeks off the booze, so I'm not sure how I'm going to be coping with 2 or 3 days in a row. But I will be flying back on Monday, so I will have seen the game in some way, shape, or form by the time we're on air. To discuss it, whether I watch it live or not, really depends on the day I've had. But I will be taking my laptop and potentially getting up in the middle of the night to watch that, because that'll be like
dedication to Celtic.
2 a.m. kickoff, I think, in Sydney.
Yes, it will be. Your dedication to Celtic, your dedication to a Celtic World of Tax Review, Paul, is second to none. Thank you for that. We'll be back next week, obviously covering the Hibs game. Please like and subscribe to the episode. It does help other like-minded Celts find us online. I'm also on the search for some crime drama. So if anything that's come across your screens, please put it in the comments section. You tell me off air, Paul. But yeah, please, playing out because looking for some new stuff to watch. It's my wife's favorite genre, so if I can surprise her with something good, that would be great. So thanks for your help on that one. We'll be back next week, and all I have to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.